right, committee, we're going to go ahead and get started. And just to kind of reiterate, yesterday we went through the budget report outs and we had the anticipation that we're going to be voting on those report outs today. You should have received an email about 5 o'clock yesterday from me stating that we will not be voting on those, and we'll do all the voting on the budget recommendations from Monday and today on Wednesday. So you should have received should have received an email from the speaker in regards to how we're going to go through today's calendar, and then also you should have received an email from me saying that we're going to be voting on all the budget recommendations on Wednesday, just for the fairness of the weather conditions and obviously the safety of the members of the committee. We're going to be holding off any voting until tomorrow. So with that, we're not going to be doing any bill introductions today. However, we are going to be having a hearing in regards to House Bill 2214, and this is authorizing the Secretary of Administration on behalf of the Department of Corrections to convey land in Mitchell County to the city of Beloit. So Jill, are you on to give us a bill brief?
I am, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. This is Jill Walters from the Office of Reviser of Statutes. House Bill 2214 allows the Secretary of Administration on behalf of the Department of Correction to convey some land in Mitchell County to the city of Beloit. This land is actually right across the street from the former Beloit Correctional Facility for young women. And the actual property of the Beloit Correctional Facility was conveyed to the city of Beloit in 2010. And for your reference, the statute that did that was 76, KSA 762221. What the bill does is requires that the deed, title, and conveyance be reviewed and approved by the Attorney General. All costs of conveyance would be paid by the city. And the deed would, or the land would actually be transferred by quitclaim deed. So the city would not be paying the state for the land in any way. And the sale would be exempt from any appraisal requirement that's required by the statute. And the bill would take effect on July 1st if adopted by the legislature. And I'd be pleased to stand for any questions.
Committee, are there any questions for the revisor's office? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Jill.
Mr. Chair.
Yes?
I'm so
Representative
sorry,
Carlin?
but my computer died while you were doing your introducing remarks this morning, and I missed that. What bill number is that, please?
The bill number is 2214.
Thank you.
Representative Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question. Who owns the land right now?
The state of Kansas,
Okay.
the Department of Corrections on behalf of the state of Kansas.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Any further questions for Jill? All right, I'm not saying any. Thank you for giving us a bill brief on House Bill 2214. The first individual that I have as a proponent for House Bill 2014 is actually one of our members in this committee, and that is Representative Kincannon.
Never stops.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you. Committee, I won't pretend to know more about this than the reviser and the two people that are going to testify on this today. Our city administrator and our city attorney will talk about this. But I just appreciate having a hearing, and I would appreciate your consideration to correct this oversight that happened many years ago, and it wasn't discovered until a recent title search. So I have some written testimony to be on the record, but I don't need to make any further comments unless somebody has questions for me.
All right, thank you, Representative. Committee, are there any questions for Representative Kincannon? All right, seeing none. Thank you for providing your testimony. The next individual that I have is, and I hope I pronounced this right, Jason Raby, the city manager for the city of Beloit. Welcome to committee.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman and committee. It's Jason Raby, just like baby, as I like to say. So that'll be the name on that. Yeah, basically, as you can see in my testimony, this is kind of a long, multi-decade issue that the girls' school got conveyed to the city. We've developed that and done a lot of good things for our community on the west side of the street. On the east side, a long time ago, we had approached the state about a lease for this 6.3 acre tract of land that our water tower actually stands on. I think our water tower was built in the late 60s. So that happened then. And during that time, then the state then conveyed or took the, put the rest of that east side of that land, as you can see in your materials in your packet, they conveyed that over to the technical college, which then went to the Mitchell County Fair Board. So we were purchasing, and in the meantime, a sports complex that serves the high school and our youth sports and everything has been developed on parts of the part that had been conveyed to the tech college and to the state or to the fair board, and on that 6.3 acres that our water tower was also sitting on. So we made the move to continue to develop that area for our youth and for the high school and all of our partners. And in the process of acquiring that property from the fair board, we found out that 6.38 acres of it was not owned by the fair board, and that's where we are today. So the rest of it should be in my testimony, but hopefully that's a high level view, and I'll entertain any questions, and our city attorney will be able to give you even more technical information. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jason, for being here. Committee, are there any questions for Jason? All right, seeing none, thank you again for being here. The next individual that I have is the city attorney for the city of Beloit, and that's Katie Schroeder. Katie?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for having us here today on a hearing on this bill. I'm Katie Schroeder, city attorney for the city of Beloit. My written testimony provides a lot of background, but just want to provide some highlights to you guys in regard to this bill and how we got here. As stated, this particular piece of tract of land is on the east side of Walnut Street. This is in the north part of Beloit and is adjacent to, of course, on the west side, our former correctional facility campus, which we have developed and continue to use. And then this particular tract is near our Beloit High School, and it's actually Fairboard, or was Fairboard property, but what we use is our sports complex. It appears that what happened here is, of course, the industrial school was on the west side of the property. In 1909, the state went ahead and acquired additional land on the east side of Walnut Street for a potential expansion of the girls' industrial school. And of course, that's what it was referred to back then. That never happened. And so in 1970, the state transferred much of that land on the east side of the street, part of it to USD 273 for the construction of our current Beloit High School, and then part of it to the Mitchell County Fair Association, probably for maybe in a potential expansion of the fairgrounds property, but that never occurred either. The city has since leased that fair board property, and we have built a sports complex there. But lost in all the shuffling of land was the 6-acre tract, which contains our water tower, which we do have an easement for and have since 1964 from the state. But records and prior surveys, I think everybody thought that this 6-acre tract had already been transferred and that the fair board actually owned this and that we were leasing it from the fair board. So unbeknownst to myself, other city staff, and when I contacted Department of Administration and Department of Corrections attorneys, they all just kind of said, well, we thought we already transferred everything to the city. And so this appears just got missed. So what we're asking for today is, again, in that bill, is just a transfer of the 6-acre tract. And as you can see from the picture that I sent with my testimony, the depiction of how it's being used right now is how it will continue to be used. It will continue to obviously have our water tower on it. And then there are portions of ball fields on that tract right now, and that will continue. But now that we've actually acquired ownership of the rest of the 20 acres that's next to this, we have plans to actually expand that sports complex even more. So this land would certainly be utilized and would benefit the city, as has the other tract on the other side of the street, which has certainly benefited the city. You can see in my written testimony how many different ways we use that girls' industrial school campus. So I appreciate you having us here today and would entertain any questions about the history or how we got here, if anybody has any.
Thank you, Katie, and it's good to see you again. It's been a
Yes.
while since we've seen each
Good to
other.
see you.
I think the last time we saw each other was at your daughter and my niece's basketball game.
Yes.
Committee, any questions for Katie? All right, seeing none. Thank you again for being here. Good to see you.
Thank you.
The next individual that I have is Randall Bowman with the Kansas Department of Corrections. Randall? Just written testimony. So I'm not showing any other individuals who wish to address the committee in regards to House Bill 2214 in having proponent testimony. I am not showing any individuals with opponent or neutral testimony. So at this point, I will close the hearing on House Bill 2214. All right, committee, we're going to go ahead and move on to the other items on the agenda today. First is going to be a report out for the Department of Agriculture from the Agriculture and Natural Resources Budget Committee. So I'll now turn it over to Chairman Corbett.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee. The Department of Ag for 21 is Volume 1, page 607. The agency request revised for FY21 expenditures of $55.9 million, including $9.8 million from the State General Fund. This is an all funds increase of $3.6 million or 6.9%. And the SGF decrease of $464 or less than 0.1% of the FY21 approved amount. The revised estimate includes reappropriations of $2.8 million from the State Water Plan Fund. The all funds increase is due to the State Water Plan Fund reappropriations primarily in the streamback stabilization, non-point source pollution assistance, and riparian wetland programs. The all funds increase is also due to the agency's supplemental request for the Kansas Revisers Protection Initiative, which provides financial assistance to landowners above the federal reservoirs to implement sediment reducing conservation. The state water plan expenditures by $1.2 million in 21. The proposed allotment plan requires legislative approval. The revised estimate includes 3.431 FTE positions, which is an increase of 32.4 FTE positions above the approved number. The increase is due to non-funded vacant positions not being previously included in the approved number. The governor's recommendation recommends for 21 expenditures of $57.4 million, including $9.4 million for SGF. This is an all funds increase of $1.5 million or 2.7%, and the SGF decrease of 420.178 or 4.3% of the 21 revised estimates. The all funds increase is due to expenditures from the agency's relief fund for monies due to the administration and funding due to the Food Stability Assistance Program being transferred. The increase is partially offset by the decrease in salaries, wages, and expenditures due to the applications of 5% salaries and wages of shrinkage. The SGF decrease is also due to the application of 5% of shrinkage rate. The House Budget Committee recommendations. Let me get this straight. The Budget Committee concurs with the governor's recommendation for 2021. Any questions?
I guess some of the questions that I have in regards to the governor's allotment for the state water plan is $1.2 million. Can you break down what will be affected out of that allotment?
Hang on. Chairman, the allotment goes like this: 150,000 aid to conservation, 250,000 to water resources, cost share, 200,000 to watershed dams, 250,000 to steam bank stabilization, $397,290 from CREP water rights.
And was there any discussion on how that would affect what the allotments would do if they go into effect?
No.
There was not. Okay. I've had some conversations with the conservation districts who are receiving an allotment, and that's why I was kind of wondering if there was any discussion in regards to that.
And I think coming up in 22, there were some recommendations for the conservation districts.
There is, okay. Committee, any questions for Chairman Corbett in regards to fiscal year 2021?
So it's same page, same volume, 607.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. For 22, the agency requests expenditures of $51.5 million, including $9.9 million for the state general fund. This is an all funds decrease of $4.3 million or 7.7%, and an SGF increase of $73,419 or 0.07% of the 21 revised estimate. The FGF increase is due to increased employer contributions to the Kansas Public Employees Retirement System and health insurance. The all funds decrease is due to decreased expenditures for the stream bank stabilization, interstate water issues, the water quality buffer initiative, and the basin management, which is the all funds decrease is due to decreased expenditures in the Kansas Reservoir Protection Initiative, which is a supplemental of the FY21. The all funds decrease is also due to decreased CARES Act money from 21. The decreases are partially offset by the agency's enhancement request of watershed dam construction, conservation enhancement, and stream bank stabilization. The governor's recommends that for 22 expenditures of 48.8, including 8.9 million from SGF. This is an all funds decrease of 2.8 million or 5.4%, and an SGF decrease of $990,684 or 0.10% below the agency's FY22 request. The SGF decrease is due to the governor's recommending the implementation of the agency's reduced resources budget. The all funds decrease is due to reduced resources in the budget, the governor's not recommending the agency's enhancement request, and the application of 5% of salaries and wages shrinkage. The House budget recommended the governor's recommendation with a couple of adjustments. Add $60,000 from SGF for the grain inspector and the grain warehouse program expenditures for 22. The agency has proposed amending fees on public grain warehouses and licenses in SB 143. The committee notes that the SGF funding for the program and the agency may be able to decrease the fee increase. The next one is add $219,264 from the state water plan to 8 conservation districts for 22. The program provides matching funds for county conservation districts to deliver and promote natural resource programs to conservation methods. The addition of these funds would return funding to the 2020 level. The transfer of $219,264 from the Economic Development Needs Fund of the state water plan fund for 2022. This would bring the total transfer to $719,264 for 22. There were 2 minority reports, and I move that the budget recommendations for the Department of Ag for 21 and 22 be approved by the Appropriations Committee.
Well, and we'll have that motion tomorrow.
Okay.
To move, because we have a lot of members that are on WebEx. In regards to the 2 minority reports, I'm reading through them right now. Can you give us a description as to some of the comments that were made on the minority reports?
I think the ones that I heard mostly was they just wanted more time to work this ag budget. And
Particular in what aspect?
I don't think that was mentioned. I just thought maybe they just thought the size of the budget or what the budget was, they needed more time, and we
Well, I mean, for example, on the one that I'm seeing from Representative Lee Hahn, it says an example would be holding off any new purchases such as buying new vehicles for any department. Was the Department of Ag, were they buying new vehicles?
No, but it was mentioned in Secretary Beam's report, the age of the vehicles and the miles of the vehicles, and one of the representatives mentioned that maybe, how do you say this? These vehicles would be too old to be even be driven, and one of the comments from one of the other representatives were a lot of farmers drive trucks just like this with more miles on them, and it was kind of going back and forth about maybe getting the Department of Ag some vehicles, but it never got to a motion or anything. It would just talk through the committee.
Well, I'm just perplexed, I guess, by that comments in the minority report. I mean, if we're not purchasing any new vehicles, then why is it supplied in the minority report?
I guess that's why it's a minority report.
Okay. Valid response. Any further questions for Representative Corbett? Representative Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Ag Budget Chairman, and you may have mentioned this, but I noticed that, the actual FTEs in 2020 were around 319, and then it went up quite a bit for 21 and 22. So did you explain about that increase in FTEs, or could you?
The Secretary did not mention much on that, but he did mention that he was able to loan the Department of Labor 60 employees to help them with whatever problems they needed.
Representative Humphreys.
Okay, so, that just begs my question a little bit more, and I don't know if it's that we could maybe get a little more information, but it looks like, it's gone up about 25 FTEs since actual 2020 fiscal year, so, and then if they could loan 60 to the Department of Labor, I'm just, okay.
And maybe, go ahead. And the total number, she said, doesn't really handle the unfunded positions. Or they may be, so I'd like to know more from the Secretary on that too, but it's hard sometimes to find out how many positions they have and how many are funded and how many are open.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I guess we can continue that saga.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think page 609 says that the increase is due to vacant positions not being previously included in the approved number. So, Chairman, how many positions do they actually are filled? Do you know how many are actually filled?
Chairman Corbett.
I'm listening. So it's that plus what? This? So if you subtract the 32.4 from the 34.31, that might be where you're at.
Representative Tarwater.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I lost my place. Is there anybody else that has a question I can come back to?
Actually, I do have a question. In regards to the relief package that was passed in December by the federal government, do we know how much the Department of Agriculture may be receiving out of that package?
Out of the CARES money?
Well, it'd be the relief package passed in December, so it'd be like what, I think they call it CARES Act 2.
The comment might be it's going directly to farmers for, like food payments or whatever, but just maybe most of it just going directly to them.
So nothing's going to the department itself. It's just going out to the producers themselves.
And the other comment the farm stress program, but we don't have a number on that, but most of it's going directly to the farmers.
All right, thank you. Representative Tarwater.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I found my place. Once I was lost, but now I'm found.
That's good to know.
My question is regarding to your third recommendations from transferring $219,000 from the EDIF to State Water Plan Fund, and that would bring the total transfers to $719,000. So are we transferring $719,000 from the EDIF to the State Water Fund?
No. No.
Casper, is that you?
So that's yes. It's supposed to be 2 million. It only had 500,000 in it, so that's why we're making the move like that.
The transfer is supposed to be $2 million from EDIF?
In statute.
So where's the economic development in that?
It's statutory.
So maybe we need to change the statute on that.
Casper.
Well, and I would
I guess
say,
And
obviously,
go
with
ahead.
Governor Brownback, had the state water plan that he had discussed during his tenure as governor. And obviously, water is needed for economic development. And so that is the reason why he had that initiative of actually having the State Water Conference, or I can't exactly remember the title that Governor Brownback had. And obviously, by statute, we were supposed to transfer $2 million in the State Water Plan Fund, and that was to, help with the water issues throughout the state of Kansas. Obviously, and I believe Representative Carlin has had some comments in regards to that's by statute. And so if there's any statutory change, then we would have to address that. One other thing that I would like to point out, and actually Representative Kincannon and I were talking about this yesterday evening, once we get all the budget recommendations from all the budget committees reported out to this committee, we are going to be having a discussion in regards to all the funds that we can disperse in the state budget, whether that be the key fund, whether that be the state water plan fund, whether that be the EDIF, and also what was the other fund that we discussed yesterday, Representative Kincannon? Anyways, so all of the funds that we have appropriated in the budget and where those monies are dispensed, we will have a discussion on that once we have all the budget recommendations from our budget committees. Representative Helgerson.
When the water plan was initially passed in the 1990s, the $2 million from EDIF was added in because it was stated by the legislators that that's economic development and we want to use the EDIF funds for it, and that's why it was put in statutorily.
Yeah. It was.
Representative Francis.
I hate to sidetrack us, but, you know, when you're from western Kansas, one of the most important drivers of economic development in our area is access to water. And we have businesses that can't locate because they don't have access to the water rights that they need to do their expansion. And value-added agriculture is one of those primary industries. And, yeah, it's incredibly important to us for economic development.
Representative Tarwater.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for the record, I'm not challenging the need for the transfer. I just figured we're using those funds for everything but small business development, which is what they were supposed to be.
No,
for.
no, 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 no,
Would you
no,
please stop
no,
interrupting
no,
me?
no, no.
Representative Carlin, can you please mute?
I can't find my mute button. I'm so sorry. That's what I was trying to tell you. It disappeared. I didn't know I was on though.
You could just not talk.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I'm so sorry. I can't find the button. I'll just try to be quiet. Mr. Chair, when I first became a member of the House, the EDIF fund was like $6 million and $2 million of that was
Can you mute her?
Okay. Representative Tarwater, do you want to continue?
I made my point. I'm not challenging the 219,000 or the need for it. I was just simply saying, once again, we're using the EDI fund for something that it was, and I realize it's in statute, but I didn't realize that we were not at the $2 million mark. I thought we were going above it, and I thought maybe we could find the funds somewhere else. That's all. Thank you.
All right. Any further questions for Chairman Corbett? Representative Estes. Representative Estes, are you there? All right. Any further questions for Chairman Corbett? All right. See none. And tomorrow we'll have the motion to approve the budgets for fiscal year 21 and 22 for the Department of Agriculture.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you for being here. We'll go ahead and move on to Chairman Carpenter, who will give us the budget recommendations from the Social Services Budget Committee. Chairman Carpenter, please tell us which budget you're going to start off with first and the volume and page number.
We'll start out with the guardianship program.
Please come to the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Committee, the report out that I have here does not have the page number or the volume number. What is that? I have an early draft. I apologize for that.
All right, committee, I'm showing that it's in volume 2, page 1118.
All right, thank you. Sorry about that. I had an early draft here and apparently didn't get the corrected one from today. Okay, committee, the Kansas Guardianship Program is a quasi-state agency that was established in 1995. Prior to that time, the program had been a part of the Kansas Advocacy and Protective Services, Inc. A 1994 federal audit found a conflict of interest between KAPS administering the state guardianship program. As a result, 1995 Senate Bill 342 established the Kansas Guardianship Program as a distinct legal entity whose employees are not considered to be state employees. The entire agency is financed through the State General Fund. The agency requested a FY 2021 revised estimate of $1.3 million, all from the State General Fund, and 10 FTEs for 2021. It's an increase of $29,364 above the amount approved by the 2020 Legislature. The increase is due to increased expenditures for contractual services and the agency's request to increase salary and wages. The governor's recommendation is a revised estimate of $1.3 million, all from SGF, and 10 FTEs for 2021. This is a decrease of $29,364 below the agency's 2021 revised estimate. This decrease is due to the governor not recommending the supplemental request for the agency pay plan. The Budget Committee concurs with the governor's recommendation for 2021.
Okay, committee, that's actually in volume 1, page 260. Any questions for Chairman Carpenter? Seeing none, you may move on to 2022.
The agency requested $1.4 million, all from SGF, and 10 FTEs for 2022. This is an increase of $31,878, or 2.4% above the 2021 revised estimate. The increase is due to the agency's enhancement requests to increase base salaries and wages for 2022, which would total $58,859. The governor recommended $1.3 million, all from SGF, and 10 FTEs for 2022, a decrease of $58,859 below the 2022 agency request. The decrease is due to the governor not recommending the agency's request for enhanced funding for the agency's pay plan. The Budget Committee concurs with the agency's recommendation for 2022 with the following adjustment. Add $58,859, all from SGF, for a staff salary adjustment for 2022. The committee notes that the salary is necessary to maintain a stable and experienced workforce, reduce staff turnover, attract qualified personnel, and maintain a more competitive peer baseline. Committee further notes that the agency has 10 FTE positions who serve adults who are without family and financial resources and who, through either physical or mental impairment or disability, are identified as in need of a court-appointed guardian or conservator. And I'll stand for questions on that.
So in regards to the addition of the $58,859 for the salary adjustments, is that outside of the 2.5% increase that the governor has proposed?
It is.
And the rationale?
Exactly what he said. They need to compete, and they need to keep good staff. They've asked for raises. Last year it was allotted. And so this is just another ask.
Mr. Chairman, this is Representative Ballard. May I comment?
Representative Ballard.
Thank you. I would just concur with what the chair has to say. We approved this additional money for them last year, and because of their need, and it was not appropriated at the end of the year. It passed in the House, but it didn't get to the Senate because we left so early. As a result of that, through not travel and other means, they have been able to absorb the cost. So they wanted a supplement, but decided not to request a supplement in 21, but did do so in 22. Remember, this organization is an all volunteer except for its staff. And they have, over almost 800 clients that they take care of. And it's probably one of the most unique programs that we have in the state. And they get a little stipend of $40 a month. A lot of them do not take it. And they even went so far as to ask the people that they rent the building from if they would reduce their rent to save cost, and 2 of the 3 did so. So this money is needed for what they need to do as far as keeping their staff. And they have a pretty loyal staff, and they have an even more loyal volunteer base. 40% have been with them 10 years or longer. So I hope I've explained why this program is saving the state millions and millions of dollars. And this amount that we are appropriating from SGF is enough just to make sure that they keep their staff and that they can provide the training services and everything else for the volunteers. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, just some quick math here. There's 775 volunteers. If they work 10 hours a month, that's $7,750 times 12 months, 93,000 hours times $15 an hour. That's that's $1.395 million that these folks save us. And I guarantee you, every one of them works more than 10 hours a week on this. They serve 1,387 folks. And in 2021, the wage increases of 29,000 were allotted. And you can find that on page 7.
Oh, so you said that was allotted by the governor?
Uh-huh.
So we had it in the budget for fiscal year 2021.
Right.
Committee, any questions for Chairman Carpenter? Representative Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the, where you note the 10 FTE positions.
Uh-huh. On page 1 or
Yeah.
2021 or 2022?
On the Budget Committee recommendations.
Uh-huh.
I guess I was expecting something afterwards. I'm not sure exactly why you highlighted the 10 positions, I guess, what's the?
Good question.
Okay.
Sailor, do you have anything on that? Oh, I see. We were trying to make a point that that's just the administration. The other volunteers, or there's 775 other volunteers. There are just 10 employees for the administration of all that the other stuff that it's involved of as being conservators.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Good question.
Any further questions for Chairman Carpenter? All right, seeing none, you can move on to the next budget.
Next up, Board of Pharmacy. The agency submits a revised, well, let me just go back here to the Board of Pharmacy. Tell you what they do here. The Board of Pharmacy is responsible for the enforcement of the Pharmacy Act and Controlled Substance Act. The mission of the board is to ensure all persons and entities conducting business relating to the practice of pharmacy in Kansas are properly licensed and registered to protect the public health, safety, welfare, and to promote understanding of the pharmacy-related practices. The 7-member board is appointed by the governor for overlapping 4-year terms and is composed of 6 licensed pharmacists and 1 public member. And if you turn to volume 3, page 1794, you'll find the 2021 budget. The agency submits a revised estimate. Do I need to wait for a minute, or I'll wait till we find 1774, volume 3, 1774.
Where?
Or 1794, sorry.
I have a computer, a phone, and an
All right, proceed.
The agency submits a revised estimate of $3.5 million, all from special revenue funds in 2021. This is an increase of $1 million above the 2021 approved budget. The increase is primarily attributable to an increased fringe benefit costs and federal grants, $923,000 for KTRAC's program software. The request includes funding for 18 FTE positions, which is an increase of 4 FTE positions over the 2021 approved number. The governor recommends expenditures of $3.5 million, all from the special revenue funds in 2021. This is an increase of $932 above the agency's FY 2021 revised estimate. The estimate is attributable to the addition of $932 for COVID relief funds money for administrative expenses as it pertains to personal protective equipment for office staff and 5 field inspectors. The personal protective equipment includes masks, gloves, sanitizing wipes, and gel, and thermometers. The Budget Committee concurs with the governor's recommendation for 2021.
Committee, in regards to the budget for the Board of Pharmacy for 2021, are there any questions?
Wait just a minute.
May I make a comment?
Representative Ballard.
Thank you. I would just like to add, and I have done this every year since the legislature passed the pharmacy bill that would allow unused meds to go to a warehouse, and it's actually it's in Olathe, Overland Park, I think, and it's distributed.
Okay, I'm looking for what? A link from you?
And one of the things that we've been very proud of every year is Alexandra Blassie has always told us how much money the state of Kansas has actually saved the state. And she reported to us last week when she spoke that over a 10-year period of time, through these recycling unopened meds, the state has provided over $40 million to Kansans with unused medicine. And so that bill we passed over 10 years ago has served Kansans well. And I just always like to report that because that's a lot of money that we have saved the state. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Representative Ballard. And also, Representative Carlin, you're not muted, so we can hear that background. So please make sure that you're muted because we're showing you're muted here.
Are you talking to me? I'm
yes,
sorry.
I am talking to you.
I'm really having a hard time with it. I'm sorry. Am I muted
What you may
now?
need to do is log out of WebEx and log back in.
Okay, I'll try that. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Or just not talk.
Any further questions for Chairman Carpenter? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to 2022.
The agency requests $3.2 million all from Special Revenue Fund for 2022. This is a decrease of $301,657 below the 2021 estimates. The decrease is primarily attributable to decreases in salary and wages and contractual services. The governor recommends expenditures of $3.7 million all from special revenue funds. This is an increase of $530,000 above the agency's 2022 request. The increase includes $60,000 for the new pharmacy inspector, along with 1 FTE position, and $469,000 in federal funding from the Harold Rogers Prescription Drug Monitoring Program. The Budget Committee concurs with the governor's recommendation with the following adjustments. Add $145,000 all SGF to the Board of Pharmacies for KTRAC system funding for FY 2022. Delete the transfers of $75,000 from the Board of Healing Arts and $70,000 from the Board of Nursing to the Board of Pharmacy for KTRAC's program for 2022.
Committee, any questions for Chairman Carpenter? Representative Sutton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I see what you're trying to do there. I don't necessarily disagree. However, have you looked at the fee funds for the Board of Healing Arts and the Board of Nursing to see how they're being impacted by the transfers to KTRACs?
Chairman Carpenter.
Well, this is a decrease of that transfer. So
right.
Their fee funds are fine. They're a lot better than they were a couple of years ago when we took $200,000-300,000 out of their budget. But this goes to I think a larger question of what fee funds should be used for. And there's no doubt that KTRACs is a huge benefit to the state of Kansas. And so I think that if there's any thing that you could say about SGF funding, it would be K-Trax. We've been able to avoid for a large part the opioid crisis. A lot of doctor shopping has went away. There's just a lot of things, and that's $145,000. So I always argue against fee funds. I think that when doctors, nurses, it used to be the optometrists, the dentists, when they send in their annual dues to their organization, they don't put on there, and you can use it for anything else you want to supplant SGF or anything like that. So this just goes to that, and I think it's a small price to pay for us. K-Trax has done a great job with attracting these grants and federal grants, and they've done a good job for us. And it's look at the whole budget, and then you look at what we're talking about in SGF. So that's where we come from. Representative Sutton.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And when K-Trax was established, it was actually funded by federal funds initially.
Yes.
Correct.
And then we transitioned that because when the federal dollars, basically was the financing method for K-Trax, was there a stipulation that SGF dollars could not be used?
There was.
There was.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why it was in the fee funds. So I guess if we have SGF dollars going in to supplant the reduction of the fee funds of the 145,000, how do we go around that limitation?
Well, there are K-Trax has two bills this year, and we're hoping to put language in at least one of those to go around that.
Thank you. Representative Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just last week, we did the Board of Healing Arts and approved the recommendations, which was to go ahead and make that transfer and for the K-Trax from their fee fund. So I don't know how that impacts how we change things in this committee, but I just wanted to mention that. But my question was, I know that federal funding it's varied over the years that we've done K-Trax so far, and sometimes we've needed to transfer more fee funds from other agencies. And so I'm just curious if I think the goal is to have some sort of stable funding where it doesn't vacillate from year to year because of the federal funding. So I'm in favor of trying to figure out how we're going to do it. But at the moment, the fee funds from at least the Board of Healing Arts, it's built in, it's okay, but we need to figure it out for the future.
And I understand that. I think that if you look here, there's 17 states that primarily fund their K-Trax program through SGF. There's also a variety of licensing, regulatory board fee funds, and then also K-Trax. In those bills that I mentioned, there are some other funding sources that they've identified that they're looking at. And also one of them is that they want to set up a donation program where folks can donate to the K-Trax. So there are some options that we are looking at for changing the funding.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's actually a bill that we're having a hearing on in Health and Human Services this week that came from the Board of Pharmacy, and there is a couple of new fees in there, and we can explain those when that happens. And when I ran the math with Ms. Blasey last week, we can come pretty close to starting to meet this. So it's going to be a kind of, definitely figuring out in the future. She will still always apply for, any grants that she can get out there, and then that's the first money used. And so we may be able to help with part of this in the future.
All right, thank you. Representative Ballard, did you have a comment?
Well, I wanted to. Actually, Representative Landwehr was commenting on it because I knew they were having a hearing. Also, we had worked on this budget as well, but their executive director is pretty aggressive, and she tries to find money. She tries to do what we ask her to do. We told her to find other means, and she's been working hard to do that. And at the time when it was set up with federal funding, remember, we were financially in a bind in the state. Not to say that we're still not in a bind, but we were in a worse bind. So I would hope we would support this because it does, as the chairman said, benefits the whole state. And we don't want to lose it. We really need to have it in the state. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Any further questions for Chairman Carpenter? Seeing none, you may move on to the budget for 2023 for the Board of Pharmacy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The agency requests $3.2 million all from special revenue funds for 2023. This is an all funds increase of $18,000 above the 22 request. This increase is primarily attributable to decreased contractual services with a partially offsetting decrease in salaries and wages. The agency requests 15 FTEs, reduction of 3 FTEs due to not knowing if the grant funding would be available at the time of the budget submission. The governor recommends expenditures of $3.7 million all from special revenue funds. This is an increase of $499,458 above the agency's 2023 request. The increase includes $121,275 for the continuation of the pharmacy inspector added in 2022, and $378,183 in federal funding from the Harold Rogers Prescription Drug Monitoring Program. At the time of the agency's budget submission, the agency was not certain of the federal grant award, so the agency request includes a reduction of 3 FTEs. The grant was subsequently awarded, and the governor recommendation restores 3 FTE positions funded with the additional grant funding. The Budget Committee concurs with the governor's recommendations with the following adjustments: add $145,000 all from SGF to the Board of Pharmacy for KTRAC's system funding for 2023. Delete the transfers of $75,000 from the Board of Healing Arts and $70,000 from the Board of Nursing to the Board of Pharmacy for KTRAC's program for 2023.
All right, committee, any questions for Chairman Carpenter for fiscal year 2023? All right, you may move on to the next budget.
Okay, Volume 3, 1756, Board of Nursing. The agency estimates 2021 expenditures of $3.2 million, all from special revenue funds. The revised estimate is an all funds increase of $50,000 above the amount approved by the 2020 legislature. The increase is largely due to an increased fingerprint request due to the first year in which nurses can convert their single state license into a multi-state license, and increased demand for licensure due to COVID-19 pandemic. Both. The revised estimate includes 27 FTEs, which is the same number approved by the 2020 legislature. The governor concurs with the agency's revised estimate of $3.2 million and 27 FTEs, and the House Budget Committee concurs with the governor's recommendation.
I'm not seeing any question. Representative Sutton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could you tell us a little bit more about the increased licensure range there that's available?
Chairman Carpenter.
Yeah, let me find that. I think it's on the back here.
And really, my main question is, are those out-of-state nurses who are registering in Kansas, or are those Kansas nurses who are registering in multi-states around us? Or both?
That's a great question that I don't have a clue about. Apparently, nurses can register in several states.
Okay, and so this increases are all Kansas nurses registering in other states?
Or other states registering in Kansas. Okay, one license allows him to practice in several states, a multi-state license.
Right, I'm getting that. I'm just saying that is the increased application for that new license coming from, the numbers that we're seeing, are those Kansas nurses opting for the multi-state license, or are they out-of-state people who are also registering in Kansas with this multi-state license?
Mostly Kansas.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I apologize if you've already asked this. I was been trying to mess with the WebEx here a little bit. But it says on page 1761, number of nurses practicing without current nursing license. And it's hovering around 100. So do they have a certain amount of time that they're able to practice without a current license, or what's the deal on that, I guess? It doesn't seem to change much, so.
I would think that, but I don't really have the answer to that. We can get back with you on that.
Okay, I'm just interested. It's quite a few, so thank you.
Committee, any further questions for Chairman Carpenter? Seeing none, you may move on to 2022.
The agency requests FY22 expenditures of $3.4 million, all from special revenue funds. The revised estimate is an all funds increase of $242,000 above the agency's 2021 request. The increase is attributable to software upgrades that allow the agency to track investigative cases. The increase is also includes expenditures to upgrade data center equipment in order to maintain up-to-date security and software. The request includes 27 FTE positions, which is the same number included in the agency's revised 2021 estimate. The governor concurs with the agency request of $3.4 million, all from special revenue funds, and 27 FTEs for 2022. The governor also recommends $70,000 from the Board of Nursing fee fund to the Board of Pharmacy to aid KTRAC's funding for 2022. The Budget Committee concurs with the governor's recommendations for 2022 with the following adjustment. Delete the transfer of $70,000 to the Board of Pharmacy from the KTRAC program for 2022. I'll stand for questions.
Committee, any questions for Chairman Carpenter? All right, seeing none, you may move on to 2023.
2023, the agency requests expenditures of $3.3 million, all from special revenue funds. The request is an all funds decrease of $154,548 below the agency's FYI 22 request. The decrease is attributable to one-time expenditures for software and equipment upgrades in 2022 that did not occur in 2023. The request includes 27 FTE positions, which is the same number that is included in the 22 request. The governor concurs with the agency's request for $3.3 million, all from special revenue funds, and 27 FTEs for 2023. The governor also recommends transferring $70,000 from the Board of Nursing to the Board of Pharmacy to aid the funding of KTRACs in 2023. The Budget Committee concurs with the governor's recommendations for 2023 with the following adjustment. Delete the transfer of $70,000 from the Board of Pharmacy to the Board of Pharmacy from the KTRACs program for 2023.
Committee, any questions for Chairman Carpenter in regards to fiscal year 2023? All right, seeing none, you can move on to the next budget.
Okay, Healthcare Stabilization Fund, 1,118. Oh, it doesn't say the volume on here. So it's volume 2. Okay. It's volume 2, page 1118.
On the top. I say that, but nobody listens.
All right, you may continue.
Okay. The agency estimates revised expenditures of $38 million, all from special revenue funds. Let me read the background on this. I've kind of been derelict in my duties of doing this just to give some folks a little overview. In 1976, Healthcare Providers Insurance Availability Act created the Healthcare Stabilization Fund to stabilize the availability of medical professional liability coverage for healthcare providers. From 1976 to 1995, the fund was administratively responsible to the Commissioner of Insurance. Being in 1995, the administration of the fund was established as an independent state agency separate from the Kansas Insurance Department. So among the provisions of fund law are a mandate for healthcare providers to maintain basic professional liability insurance as a condition to render services in Kansas, a requirement that the fund provide excess professional liability insurance coverage, and establish of an availability plan to provide required basic professional liability insurance coverage when such coverage is not available through insurance companies. Fund loss exposures begin when a medical professional liability claim or legal action exceeds the required professional liability coverage of $200,000 per claim, with an annual aggregate for all claims of $600,000. Fund coverage is also may be provided for claims and legal actions brought against eligible inactive healthcare providers. Since 1999, healthcare providers have selected one of the three fund coverages amounts: $100,000, $300,000, $300,000, $900,000, and $800,000 to $2.4 million. The agency requests estimates revised expenditures of $38 million, all from special revenue funds for 2021. This is an all funds decrease of $17,000 below the 2021 approved budget. The decrease is primarily attributable to decreased expenditures in contractual services for computer software maintenance contracts, and the revised estimate includes 21 FTEs, the same number as 2021. The governor concurs with the agency's revised estimate for 2021, and the budget committee concurred with the governor's estimate.
Was there any discussion on how the allotment's only $39,300, almost $39,400, but how that will affect this department?
There was. It's negligible. It's a non-event for them.
All right, thank you. Representative Sutton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm doing this kind of from memory, but didn't the Healthcare Stabilization Fund agree to fund two positions in the administrative hearings department or agency? And then I don't see that here. I'm wondering, is that where the $39,000 came from? Because they didn't in 21. And so I'm a little bit curious as to where that's reflected in the budget.
Chairman Carpenter.
That's news to me. There was nothing in the testimony from the director that mentioned that.
Bet there wasn't.
I don't think there's any narrative anywhere in their budget, so.
Representative Sutton.
Excellent. Well, we'll revisit that when we get to the administrative hearings budget, but that did have some impact there. And so we had legislated an additional position or two positions, and those positions weren't filled in 21. Now, I think accommodations are being made for 22 to make that happen, but that delay was something that did impact the agency.
Yeah, I'm not aware of that, and it's certainly not in this budget, so I'm not sure how they were planning on funding it.
Any further questions for Chairman Carpenter? All right, seeing none, you may move on to 2022.
The agency requests $37 million, all from special revenue funds for 2022. This is an all funds decrease of $1 million. or 2.7% below the 2021 revised estimate. The decrease is primarily attributable to decreased expenditures for court-approved settlement agreements or jury awards. The decrease is partially offset by increased expenditures for contractual services related to legal fees, attorneys, expert witness, and court costs, and salaries and wage expenditures for a 2.5% merit-based salary increase and increases for salaries and wages fringe benefits. The request includes 21 FTE positions, which is the same number as the 2021 estimate. The governor concurs with the agency's request for 2022, and the Budget Committee concurred with the governor's recommendation.
Committee, any questions for Chairman Carpenter in regards to fiscal year 2022? All right, seeing none, let me move on to the next budget.
I might add, the committee had some discussion about, we've got COVID liability issues coming up, and then also, what was it, the Supreme Court ruled on the tort reform, what was it, last year or the year before, and they are stable, in very good shape. They have a lot of money in the bank, and they're doing fine. But they are aware of that and are watching closely to see if they need to increase their premiums to offset that.
All right, thank you. You may move on to the next budget.
Okay, the next one, Board of Mortuary Arts, which I also have a draft. And so hang on till I get the page number on that. What is it? Volume 3, 1737. I apologize, committee. I started off early on these before the books were out in draft, and they were in draft form. So again, I apologize for that. I'd like to say it won't happen again, but I'm not going to. 1737, volume 2, 3.
All right, you may proceed.
Okay, the Board of Mortuary Arts regulates embalmers, funeral directors, assistant funeral directors, apprentice embalmers, crematory operators, and funeral establishments, branch funeral establishments, and crematories. 5-member board ensures funeral homes, crematories, licensees, apprentices, and student embalmers operate according to the state laws and that they serve in the best interests of the consumer by meeting and maintaining licensing and regulatory requirements. To accomplish these things, the board provides information detailing the Kansas licensing process, provides assistance to potential licensees who may not understand or meet licensing requirements, maintains information on all individuals who seek and maintain licenses, inspects funeral homes and crematory facilities twice a year, investigates complaints regarding the practice of a mortuary arts professional, and takes appropriate disciplinary measures if warranted. The board also informs Kansas consumers about laws relating to the death process, funeral prearrangements, and the funeral process. The agency requests a 2021 revised estimate of $325,000, all from the Mortuary Arts Fee Fund and 3 FTE positions. The revised estimate is the same as the amount approved by the 2020 legislature. The governor concurs with the agency's revised estimates, and the Budget Committee concurred with the governor's recommendations for 2021.
Not seeing any questions, we move on to 2022.
2022, the agency requests expenditures of $304,038, all from the Mortuary Arts Fee Fund and 3 FTEs. The estimate is a decrease of $21,000 below the agency's 2021 revised estimate. The decrease better reflects anticipated expenditures and reduction in salary. The governor concurs with the agency's 2022 request. The Budget Committee concurred with the governor's request.
Actually, this might be a question more for Chairperson Landwehr, but I'm looking in the House calendar, and actually today, I don't know how this affects the budget for the Board of Mortuary Arts, but you're having a hearing on 2 bills today. Can you kind of describe exactly what those bills will be doing and how that could impact the Board of Mortuary Arts?
I'm not aware of it having a fiscal impact on it at this time, either one of them.
I just happened to notice that on your calendar.
Yeah.
It's House Bill 2262 and House Bill 2254.
Right, and they're simple enough. Actually, we'll probably hear them and work them if I've got the votes in the building.
All right, thank you. Any further questions for Chairman Carpenter? Seeing none, you may move on to 2023.
The agency requests 2023 expenditures of $308,394, all from Mortuary Arts Fee Fund and 3 FTEs. This request is an increase of $1,300 above the FY22 request. The increase is associated with anticipated expenditures in salary and wages, contractual services, and commodities. The governor concurs with the agency's 2023 request, and the Budget Committee concurred with the governor's request.
Committee, any questions for Chairman Carpenter for fiscal years 2021, 2022, or 2023? All right, seeing none, I think we have one budget left, and that is the Commission on Veterans Affairs Office.
And I do have the correct deal here, Volume 1, page 199. So, wow. The mission of the Kansas Commission of Veterans Affairs Office, KCVAO, is to serve Kansas veterans and their families, relatives, dependents with information, advice, direction, and assistance through the coordination of programs and services in the field of education, health, vocational guidance and placement, and economic security. Services provided by the agency include long-term nursing and assisted living care facilities for eligible veterans, completion and maintenance of 4 state veteran cemeteries, and the coordination of veterans or federal agencies to provide financial assistance to Kansas veterans for health care and disability income. The agency serves veterans through 13 field offices, 6 service office organization offices, 2 mobile vans, and the central office located in Topeka. And additional services are provided through service grants to veteran service organizations. Nursing and assisted living care is provided through the Kansas Soldiers Home, Fort Dodge, and the Kansas Veterans Home, KVH, in Winfield. The agency estimates revised expenditures of $26.9 million, including $8.7 million from the State General Fund for operating expenditures and capital improvements for 2021. The agency estimates revised operating expenditures of $23.3 million, including $8.6 million in 2021. This revised estimate as an operating expenditure is an all funds increase of $478,000 above the 2021 amount. This includes an SGF increase of $2.7 million and a special revenue fund decrease of $2.2 million, or 13% above the 2021 approved amount. The SGF increase is attributable to 2.7 in supplemental requests for the shortfalls for the Kansas Soldiers Home and the Kansas Veterans Home due to lower population census. The agency also requests supplemental appropriations for COVID-19 testing and psychological treatment. The Legislative Budget Committee appropriated $830,000 SGF for budget shortfalls in 2021 interim. Special fund expenditure decreases primarily attributable to a decrease in salary expenditures, fringe benefit expenditures, and adjustment to salary shrinkage. The decrease is partially offset by an increase in laboratory fees and expenditures for medical equipment and supplies at KSH and KVH related to the COVID-19 pandemic. A summary of the capital improvement expenditures included with the capital improvements section. And this document reflects the capital improvement all funds increase of $2.3 million above the 2021 approved amount. The all funds increase is primarily attributable to the agency reappropriating funds from the state institutions building fund, a transfer from the Veterans Benefit Lottery Game Fund and federal grants. The agency's revised estimate includes 373 FTE positions, same number approved by the 2020 legislature. The governor recommends $25.9 million, including $6 million SGF. The governor recommends 2021 operating expenditures of $22.3 million, including $5.9 SGF. This is an all funds decrease of $976,000 and an SGF decrease of $2.7 million below the agency's 2021 revised estimate. The decrease is attributable to the governor not recommending the agency's 2021 supplemental request totaling $22.7 million SGF. The agency was approved by the State Finance Council to receive funding for the coronavirus relief fund for increased COVID-19 expenditure requirements. Due to the receipt of these federal funds and additional fee fund monies, the agency has indicated it does not anticipate needing the supplemental funds it originally requested to address the agency's budget shortfall. The governor concurs with the agency's 2021 revised capital improvement estimate. The budget committee concurs with the governor's recommendation.
All right, so the $830,000, that was approved by the Joint Legislative Budget Committee and then approved by the Legislative Coordinating Council in fiscal year 2021?
Uh-huh.
And then what was the amount that was received from the coronavirus relief fund that was approved by the State Finance Council? Do you have that number?
At the time that we heard this budget, we did not have any federal funds, and I'm not aware that we've gotten any yet, have we, Martin? We're currently gathering that lift. It's been difficult at best.
And I'm trying to recall in the State Finance Council if that was kind of like a entire package that we approved. And I'm assuming that request may have came from the Spark Committee, but I'm trying to recall exactly what that line item would have been.
We just have not gotten that information yet. It's been kind of disappointing, but I will remind the committee last year, I mean, within 2 weeks after we heard their budget and everything was fine, I got a call from Director Campbell, and and we had added $1 million in our budget and our committee recommendations because his numbers said they weren't fine. You know, I mean, you could see it. Anyway, they ended up doing a GBA also last year, and I think that GBA was like 500,000 or something. Was that what it was? It was like 500,000. They did a GBA just to get them through to the end of the year, and then this additional money that we're talking about was from the legislative budget, and the coordinating council was more money on top of that.
All right, thank you. Committee, any questions for Chairman Carpenter? Seeing none, you may move on to fiscal year 2022.
The agency requests operating expenditures of 21.9, including 7.4 from the SGF for operating expenditures of 2022. This is an all funds decrease of 1.4 million or 6% and an SGF decrease of 1.2 million below the 2021 revised estimate. The SGF decrease is primarily attributable to 1.8 million in non-recurring expenditures requested as a supplemental in the 2021 COVID testing and treatment. The reduction is partially offset by an increase in shortfall enhancement funding of 903,000 from 903,000 to 1.4 million. In addition, the 1.4 million enhancement for the funding shortfall, the request includes a $43,000 enhancement for Office of Information Technology Services rate increases and $63,000 in an additional transfer from the Kansas Lottery scratch ticket sales. The special revenue fund expenditures decrease is primarily attributable to the decreased expenditures for laboratory fees, staffing, recruiting expenditures, and medical equipment related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The request also includes 373 FTEs, which is the same number in the 2021 budget. The agency requests capital improvement expenditures of $1.9 million, including $111,000 from SGF. This is an all funds decrease of $1.7 million and an SGF increase of $31,000 from the 2021 revised estimate. The decrease is primarily attributable to the use of reappropriated capital improvement funding for 2021. Capital improvement expenditures include projects at Kansas Soldiers Home and the Kansas Veterans Home and the 4 state cemeteries. The governor recommended 22 expenditures of $21.6 million, including 5.4 SGF. This was an all funds decrease of $2.1 million or 9% and an SGF decrease of $2.1 million below the agency's 2022 requests. The governor recommends 22 operating expenditures of $19.7 million, including 5.3 SGF. This is an all funds decrease of $2.1 million and SGF decrease of $2.1 million below the agency's 2021 revised estimate. The decrease is attributable to the governor not recommending the agency's 2022 enhancement requests and adopting the agency's reduced resources, which I'm not sure what page they are, but they ended up being just the CAPERS death and disability benefits were the reduced resources. The Budget Committee concurs with the governor's recommendation for 2022 with the following recommendation. The Budget Committee recommends that the Kansas Commission on Veterans Affairs Office submit a report to the House Social Services Budget Committee prior to omnibus detailing plans for currently unused beds and the projected need for future bed space.
All right, committee, any questions for Chairman Carpenter for fiscal year 2022? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Chairman Carpenter.
I have a whole sheet here on questions about that. What is going on here, guys?
If you want to elaborate,
I'm going to volunteer anyway because some folks went to a lot of work to get this. Currently, the combined totals between the 2 hospitals is long-term care beds are 153. So their combined census is 164. Long-term care census is 107, and the domiciliary census is 57. So I can go into details for the 2 homes, but that's kind of the big picture of that budget. So I just, we're currently talking about a new veterans home, which I'm not against at all. But I think that the committee was concerned that we should have a long-range plan, no matter what, about dealing with these beds. It's $17.5 million SGF. Obviously, the question is going to come out: what were you doing when you were building these more capacity when you have these many beds? So that's my soapbox, and I'm off of it.
All right, thank you, Chairman Carpenter. And obviously, we had the discussion in regards to that bill of building a veterans home in the northeastern part of the state that passed out of committee. Representative Helgerson.
I would like copies of that information, if you would, please. Thank you.
Any further questions or comments for Chairman Carpenter? Seeing none, thank you again, Chairman Carpenter. And tomorrow we'll have the motion for the approval of all the budgets and any amendments that may be affixed to any of those budgets that you reported out today. The next individual that we'll have is the chairman of the Transportation and Public Safety Budget Committee. So I'll now turn it over to Chairman Francis. Please indicate which budget you're going to be starting off with, plus the volume and page number.
Well, I think since our legislative analyst for bids is here, we'll just start with bids, with the bids one, and it is volume 2, page 1. Well, 1181, volume 2, page 1181. Okay. So the agency estimates revised expenditures of $35.4 million, including $34.8 million from the State General Fund in fiscal year 2021. This is an all funds decrease of $3.3 million, or 8.5%, and an SGF decrease of $3.3 million, or 8.6% below the fiscal year 2021 approved amount. The SGF decrease is primarily attributable to the lapse of fiscal year 2020 reappropriated funds in the amount of $3.4 million. The revised estimate includes a special revenue fund increase of $11,472, or 1.9% above the fiscal year 2021 approved amount. The increase is attributable to a fee fund carry forward from the Indigent Defense Services Fee Fund and the In-Service Education Fee Fund. The revised estimate includes 200.8 FTE positions, which is 1.1 positions above the fiscal year 2021 approved number. According to the agency, the accounting system included classified temporary positions as FTE positions. So we're going to have a technical correction in the governor's recommendation. The governor's recommendation recommends expenditures of $32.4 million, including $31.7 million SGF in fiscal year 2021. This is an all funds decrease of $3 million, or 8.4%, and an SGF decrease of $3.1 million, or 9% below the agency's fiscal year 2021 revised estimate. The decrease is due to the governor recommending a reduction to the assigned counsel program of $3 million based on the fall 2020 assigned counsel caseload projection. The decrease is partially offset by the governor recommending $147,141 all SGF for the agency's supplemental request to address information technology and IT security. The recommendation includes the 199.7 positions that I referred to earlier. That it's to correct the technical error that counted the temporary positions as FTE positions. Budget Committee concurred with the governor's recommendation in fiscal year 2021. This agency primarily provides indigent defense to people in the court system. So that's why you see these huge decreases. The court system hasn't been very active in the COVID deal. So estimates of assigned counsel and their operating expenses were quite a bit below what was anticipated. With that being said, I'd stand for questions on fiscal year 2021.
Committee, any questions for Chairman Francis? Seeing none, please proceed with 2022.
So the chairman threw me off my game plan a little bit. I wanted to wish everybody quickly a happy Pancake Day. I want you to know that Pancake Day started in, I think, around 1950. Pancake Day, the International Pancake Race, unfortunately, is a casualty of COVID. And I've seen a few of my friends back home talk about they were reluctantly somewhat glad that the race was canceled this year because of the extreme cold that we're experiencing out there. So anyway, everybody go to lunch for Pancake Day. What's that?
If the race had continued to be frozen pancakes.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Go to Dillon's and get them out of the freezer section. So for 2022, this is where this one gets a little bit interesting. The agency requested $51.5 million, including $50.9 million SGF for fiscal year 2022. This is an increase of $16.1 million, or 45.4%. And an SGF increase of $16.1 million, or 46.3% above the fiscal year 2021 revised estimate. The increase is primarily due to the agency's enhancement requests for funds to upgrade IT security systems, an assigned counsel rate increase, implementation of a case management system, and staffing enhancements. The request includes 294.8 FTE positions, which is an increase of 94 FTE positions above the fiscal year 2021 revised estimate. This increase is entirely due to the agency's caseload staffing enhancement request. So the governor recommended expenditures of $38.2 million, including $37.6 million SGF for fiscal year 2022. This is an SGF decrease of $13.3 million, or 26.1% below the agency's request. The decrease is primarily attributable to the governor only recommending one of the agency's enhancement requests, $4.1 million all SGF for recruiting and retention. The decrease is also due to a reduction of $1.7 million all SGF due to the governor recommending part of the agency's reduced resources budget. These decreases are partially offset by an increase of $342,983 for assigned council caseload estimates. The recommendation includes 199.7 FTE positions, which is 95.1 FTE positions below the agency's request. The decrease in FTE positions is due to the governor not recommending the enhancements that include 94 FTE positions for staffing and the correction of a technical error that counted the temporary positions as 1.1 FTE positions. All right. The Budget Committee concurred with the governor's recommendation for fiscal year 2022 with the following adjustments and notations. We deleted the $4.1 million all SGF for the agency's enhancement request for retention and recruitment for fiscal year 2022. The amount was requested to achieve pay parity with prosecutors and other comparable government employees and to establish an internal formal training program for public defenders and assigned counsel. The request included $4 million for pay scale conversion and $164,000 for office space rent, training programs, NAPD membership, and bar fees for the new training division. I would want to point out that the $164,000 was taken care of in the governor's 2021 budget, so they just put it in twice in case it didn't make it through one of the others. So what we did, and just so everybody kind of knows, when you're charged with a crime, if you don't have the money to do it, you've got a Sixth Amendment constitutional right to counsel. What's going on right now is this agency's caseloads are above what is recommended by, what's the name of that group? It's in here. Oh, yeah. By the National Advisory Commission on Criminal Justice Standards and Goals. So what we tried to do, and also the governor in her amendment, she allowed them to hire some positions to address this. But what we did, we kind of wanted to dial it down a little bit more. One of their big needs is a case management system. And that's about $200,000. That's going to make all of them more efficient. So we added $200,000 all SGF for the agency's enhancement request for the purchase and implementation of a case management system for fiscal year 2022. It's a one-time fee that will be utilized for the custom build of a system, including the integration of the agency's historical data. In addition, a yearly fee based on the number of new cases the agency anticipates entering into the system is anticipated. What actually happens is this system costs $150,000. They anticipate the annual maintenance to be around $50,000 on it. Then we also added $3.9 million all SGF to partially fund the agency's enhancement request for ethical caseload staffing for fiscal year 2022 to hire 26 additional public defenders and necessary support staff. The agency indicated it is attempting to meet the National Advisory Commission on Criminal Justice Standards and Goals for the defense caseload guidelines of not more than 150 felony cases per attorney per year. The agency originally requested, and I think this is important, they originally wanted $7.8 million all SGF for 94 positions. We only authorized $3.9 million. But again, that'll give them the attorneys to hit this caseload guideline. The Budget Committee also recommends future Budget Committees give favorable consideration to additional expenditure requests over the next 4 years related to Phase 1 of the agency's three-phase plan as outlined in the agency's report titled A Status of Public Defense in Kansas. So their original request was for $16.6 million to meet Phase 1 of this study. Again, we're shooting for $4.1 million, and our focus is entirely to bring this caseload per attorney down to the guidelines, and that's why we did what we've done. I know a lot of us over the years have heard about the problems in this agency. It's too much for us to attack in 1 year, and I don't think actually they can implement everything in phase one in 1 year. Some of the other things in the 16.6 million that weren't addressed, one of them is around, I believe it's 3.5 million for an increase in the rate of the assigned counsel. They're currently tapped out on that. There's a bill in, I believe, judiciary to increase the top limit of that. If that happens, you know, we may see that in omnibus, but I mean, statutorily, you can't increase it above the 80 anyway. So, I mean, we didn't even take a stance on that at all. Trying to think if there's anything else. Anyway, I'd stand for questions.
Committee, any questions for Chairman Francis? Representative Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm curious, so I'm looking in the notebook, and do you know the percentage of, so the FTEs, the attorneys that work there versus that $80 per hour that they're paying to like contract employees? Do you know the percentage of the cases, or even in the budget, how much are the employees and how much are those contract attorneys?
Chairman Francis.
You have a breakdown between the amount that we spend on assigned counsel versus operations? I know that there is in here, and I can try to find out while we're talking. They've got an average cost per case for assigned counsel versus what they handle in-house. And I believe, what page is that on? Well, I want to know I want to know the cost per case for assigned counsel versus yeah, it is. It's like I should just go through page by page and I will find it.
You can just get back to me too on that if you want, if you prefer.
Yeah, we can find that. Anyway, the in-house cases cost, I believe it's like $75 or $100 per case on average, less than when they do assigned case. Now, one of the things we have to remember is, you know, Kansas is a very diverse state, so we need assigned counsel regardless of how many attorneys we handle, because like in certain areas, if you have a conflict of interest, for instance, I know there's something about what happens in Wyandotte County where they rely a lot more on assigned counsel than they do
employees.
The public defender's office, isn't that right? Because, well, there's some internal things that cause that. When we're out in western Kansas, the population density isn't enough to support a public defender's office. So a lot of times we have to rely on assigned counsel. So we definitely have to have both of those two entities.
And it is interesting how this committee intersects with our other committees. And so we are hearing that in judiciary about that $80 cap. But this is an area that, anyway, I feel strongly that people need to have good counsel. So I appreciate the work that you've done and the way that you're easing in the budget. Thank you.
And just to remind everybody, I mean, what goes on in other committees, and if they do have a fiscal note as far as the bills, and if they do pass the legislature and become signed by the governor, all of that is factored in when we do the budget. So it all kind of rolls back in together on bills that have passed the legislature and have been signed by the governor, became law.
Yeah, thank you.
Chairman Francis, did you have another comment?
Well, I was just going to say, I know those of you that have been on this committee for a number of years, one of the, you know, caseload changes are always kind of a rude awakening. And I know in this agency, you know, I'm aware that I'm always kind of struck. They meet in April and November, and they look at what the volume of cases have been. And that dollar amount that we have to pay sometimes after they meet in November can kind of be jaw-dropping, you know, and frustrating. So that's all I really wanted to say.
Representative Helgerson.
That leads to my question, and that is, I thought that there was less trials and less need of court-appointed attorneys and staffing this last year. And did they see a reduction in the amount?
Yeah, they lapsed $3.4 million from 20 to 21. And then the governor, when she did her budget, the assigned caseloads were down by 3 million, I believe, and we reduced them by those amounts.
Okay, so the 3.4, is that the new base?
They returned back to that base in 2022.
They returned back to the previous base. What I'm wondering is the 16 million on top, is it basically going back to a 3 million, 3.4 million, and that's the base? So it's actually a $13 million increase
No, it's
from last year, or it's?
They asked for a $16 million increase off of what would have normally been
21.
our base, off of what we would have budgeted for 20.
Okay, all right.
Because, yeah, what we would have budgeted for 20, it was roughly a $16 million increase on that, but we gave them 4.1 million.
Okay, and it looks like from what your language is, you're endorsing the plan of $16 million. You're just saying we don't have the money right now and we're only going to do 4 million of it right now.
Yeah, and by the way, I mean, we need to study it. I was doing some study as I was going over this budget last night, if you want to know the truth, and I've had some different thoughts than maybe I had the first time I heard the budget. And I think each budget needs to look favorably upon their request, but I think we need to continue to get more information on it.
Have you sold off on the plan?
I've sold off on the concept that I think there's a huge need there.
Okay. Has anyone talked about the idea that eventually, whenever the department gets to a point, or a judiciary gets to a point, that we are going to have judges in less and less counties, and we'll have attorneys in less and less counties, and they'll be consolidated, whether or not that'll meet the muster with the Supreme Court?
With this?
Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
I think that, yeah, I think that their plan going forward would meet the muster of the court. I'm not an attorney, though, you know, I mean, okay. I'm a layman with a personal opinion. Let me give you, for instance, well, it's too early, but I mean, I think they're going in the right direction. I would say that, and I think there's something we have to address.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions for Chairman Francis? All right, seeing none, move on to the next budget.
Next
Just
budget.
for the committee's knowledge, we are going to go past the 11 o'clock deadline so we can get caught up on all the budgets and then get back on track. So Chairman Francis.
And the rest of them will be much quicker. Famous last words, right?
Exactly.
That's right. We're going to do the Kansas Bureau of Investigation. It's Volume 1, page 459. Okay, the agency requested for 2021 revised estimate of $46.4 million, including $34.5 million from the State General Fund for operating expenditures and capital improvements in fiscal year 2021. This is an all funds decrease of $995,300 or 2.1%, and an SGF decrease of $29,635 or 0.1% below the fiscal year 2021 approved amount. The revised fiscal year 2021 estimate includes 353 positions, and it's a decrease of 3 positions below the number approved by the 2020 session. The decrease in SGF from the approved is due to coronavirus relief funds reimbursing expenditures that were part of the governor's allotment. The agency notes that the decrease in all other funds is due to funding considerations and current and potential budget reductions that may occur during the pandemic. In order to reduce the impact of these actions, the agency has limited expenditures. The agency's revised estimate includes capital improvements of $2.6 million all SGF in 2021. This is no change from the fiscal year 2021 approved amount. And therefore, a debt service principal on the forensic science laboratory, and then $100,000 for rehab and repair. The governor recommended fiscal year 2021 expenditures of $46.6 million, including $34.4 million SGF. This is an all funds increase of $199,130, or 0.5%, including an SGF decrease of $84,210 below the agency's fiscal year 2021 revised estimate. The governor's recommendation accounts for federal coronavirus relief funding awards of $283,340 and lapses one of the Representative Sutton's left. Lapses one of our favorite bills around here, the Scrap Metal Repository Fund. I think that's something we visit year after year. I kind of had night terrors as I saw that in this budget. It's right there with hemp. Anyway, the Budget Committee concurred with the governor's recommendation in fiscal year 2021. And I do want to take a moment, I'm more ready to stand for questions, but I do want to take a moment to thank this agency. I think they really took a proactive approach as far as addressing the financial needs of the state going forward. They've got a 10-year improvement plan in their agency. They asked for none of their enhancements for this year or next year. They shoved all of those back a year, and I think we know that they've always been one that's kind of pushed their enhancements and everything. Anyway, with that, I'll stand for other questions on the first year.
Committee, are there any questions? Now Representative Helgerson.
Are there any helicopters in this?
There are no helicopters. Okay. They're probably like in that spy plane, though, out there in Hayes with the big flare.
On the scrap metal fund, it was lapsed. Was it lapsed into?
They got the project done. It came in under budget.
Okay.
They were hoping that some of those funds on that would stay in there. They've got a $30,000 a year, basically maintenance charge on that. They were hoping some of those funds would stay in there to pay that, but they'll just have to budget those out of SGF going forward.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And then their fingerprint identification project is?
Going forward. They haven't let the bid yet. They're in that process of bid letting right now, and they really couldn't talk about it very much because of where they were in that process.
Okay. All right. Great. I don't see any other questions, so you can go on to 2022.
So for 2022, the agency requested an operating budget of $37.2 million, including $24.9 million SGF for fiscal year 2022. This request is an all funds decrease of $6.6 million, or 15.1%, and an SGF decrease of $7 million, or 21% below the fiscal year 2021 revised estimate. The agency requested 353.5 FTE positions, which is no change from the fiscal year 2021 revised estimate. This decrease is due to significant expenditures surrounding the purchase of a new automated biometric identification system and other coronavirus funding and grants received in fiscal year 2021. The agency requested $2.8 million for capital improvements. Again, it's the debt service on the forensic science laboratory and $100,000 for rehab and repair. The governor recommended an operating budget of $36.1 million, including $23.9 million for fiscal year 2022. This is a decrease of $1.1 million, all SGF, below the agency's request. This is due to the governor's partial acceptance of the agency's reduced resources budget for fiscal year 2022. They wound up having, Aaron, was it 5 or was it 6 positions cut? Do you remember, Aaron? Was it 5 or was it 6 positions cut in the? But as part of their reduced resources budget, when they originally submitted it, it had 10 or 12 from the central office, and the governor, they agreed on, it's either 5 or 6. What's that? Yeah, that's, I'm thinking of, I know I'm confusing you because I'm talking about something a little bit different.
I'm sorry. Chairman, were those filled funded positions or vacant funded positions?
They're vacant.
Vacant funded positions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But they did hold other positions open, like the 16 that Aaron was trying to whisper, but those weren't part of the governor's reduced resources plan. Anyway, the governor concurred with the agency's capital improvement expenditures for fiscal year 2022, and the budget committee concurred with the governor's recommendation for fiscal year 2022. The agency did, in our conversations with them, said that they were fortunate to receive $283,340 in the state's third round of coronavirus aid relief, the CARES funding, as well as $520,000 in coronavirus emergency supplemental funds through the Federal Justice Assistant Grant. And they were using this CARES funding to keep employees safe by supporting work from home efforts, which meant investments in laptops, replacement of firewalls, security, PPE, et cetera, et cetera. So with that, I would stand for questions for fiscal year 2022.
All right, thank you, Chairman Francis. Committee, any questions for Chairman Francis in regards to fiscal year 2022? Representative Tarwater.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This may not have to do with 2022, but it has to do with the history. I think in 17 we added 6 forensic scientists to accommodate the sexual assault kit submissions that were backlogged for years. And then I think we added some more in 18 or 19. Where do we stand on the backlog of sexual assault kits?
You know, we didn't have that conversation this year. I'm sorry, we can find out. But last year we did have that conversation and they were caught up.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So can you find that out, Aaron, for Representative Tarwater?
Committee, any further questions for Chairman Francis? All right, and we'll get that information for you, Representative Tarwater. All right, Chairman Francis, let me move on.
Okay, next budget that we'll go to is Board of Technical Professions. And it is Volume 3, page 1855. Okay, the agency requests for fiscal year 2021 a revised estimate of $780,918, all from the Board of Technical Professions Fee Fund. This is the same as the amount approved for fiscal year, or by the 2020 legislature. The agency's fiscal year 2021 revised estimate includes 5 FT positions, which again is the same as fiscal year 2021. The governor concurred with the agency's fiscal year 2021 revised estimate, and the Budget Committee concurred with the governor's recommendation for fiscal year 2021. And they said, as regarding to COVID funds, they received less than $100 of COVID funds in 2020. We asked them all.
Go ahead and move on to 2022.
Okay. Fiscal year 2022, the agency requests fiscal year 2022 operating expenditures of $786,172, all from the Board of Technical Professions Fee Fund. This is an increase of $5,254, or 0.7% above the agency's 2021 revised estimate. The increase is primarily due to the expenditures for salaries and wages and contractual services. And the request includes funding, again, for 5 FTEs, which is the same number in fiscal year 2021. The governor concurred with the agency's 2022 request, and the Budget Committee concurred with the governor's request for 2022.
All right, I'm not seeing any questions. Move on to 2023.
So for 2023, the agency requested operating expenditures of $792,000, all from special revenue funds. This is an increase of $5,919 above the agency's 2022 request. The increase is due to expenditures for salaries and wages and contractual services, and the request includes funding for 5 FT positions again. The governor concurred with the agency's 2023 request, and the Budget Committee concurred with the governor's recommendation.
All right, committee, any questions for Chairman Francis? All right, seeing none, you can move on to the last budget.
And this is the infamous Abstractors Board of Examiners, I believe the smallest budget in state government. We have 0 FTEs for 2021, and their request was for $25,703, and the governor recommended $25,703, and we concurred with both of them. And
All right,
then,
committee, any questions? And you did both budgets right off the bat because obviously it's, like you said, one of the smallest budgets. Any questions for Chairman Francis? All right, see none? Thank you.
for fiscal year 2022, the request was for $25,716, all from the Abstractors Fee Fund. This is an increase of $13 or 0.1% above the fiscal year 2021 revised estimate. This increase is primarily due to increased salaries and wages, fringe benefits. The request does not include any FT positions, which is the same as the fiscal year 2021 revised estimate. The governor concurred with the agency's 2022 request, and we concurred with the governor's recommendation for 2022.
All right, just go ahead and move on to 2023.
For 2023, it's $25,717. This is an increase of $1 above the fiscal year 2022 request. And it is primarily due to increased expenditures for salaries and wages and fringe benefits. The governor concurred with the agency's 2023 request, and we concurred with the governor's request.
And that $1 increase, is that coming from the fee fund, or where is that coming from?
Yes, that is coming from the fee fund. We had some extensive questioning on what made them request a $1 increase, and they said they have instructions to plug it into a thing that figures what their salaries are to be, and that was the amount that came out.
All right, thank you. Representative Sutton.
Well, I'm actually looking at the 2022 $13 increase. Normally, 0 FTEs, the folks don't receive capers or anything like that. So I'm wondering exactly what fringe benefit are we paying that $13?
We can get back with you on that. I don't know. The question actually came up on the $13.
I would imagine it did.
We let it go on the $1, but
McDonald's right there.
we can find out. I know that it's not a full-time position.
Right, right. All right,
Yeah,
thank you.
we
Thank
can
you,
find
Mr.
out.
Chair.
Any further questions for Chairman Francis? All right, seeing none, thank you for your presentation. Committee, how we're going to operate tomorrow is we have the Higher Education Budget Committee having a report out on regards to a lot of the Regent universities, and we also have a hearing on Senate Bill 1, which is actually what we referenced yesterday when we had the budget for the Kansas State Fair. And we had referenced that bill, which would authorize the State Fair Board to use monies in the State Fair Capital Improvements Fund for general operations for fiscal years 2021 and 2022. And then, but first, tomorrow we're going to be having the approval of all the budgets that we heard yesterday and today. So if you have any amendments, we'll go through each of those budgets one by one to have approval by this committee. If there's any amendments for that particular budget, we'll have it at that time, discussion, and then move on and vote, and then move on to the next budget so we can get all those taken care of. I am pleased that today, actually, we did get caught up on all the budget recommendations. Also, in regards to a discussion that we had, I believe it was yesterday, in regards to the Secretary of State's budget, you should have a response on your placement. what the estimated cost is going to be for the Secretary of State for the August 2022 primary constitutional amendment. They'll be on the ballot. So he has supplied us with that cost, and I believe it's a breakdown of how much it's going to cost per county. Also, you should all receive, in regards to the state library, there's an issue kind of with their FTEs. They had the same amount of FTEs. It was just a transfer of title for one of their FTEs, which makes it look like in their budget profile that they're increasing an FTE, which actually they are not. So they just wanted to have that supplied for the committee to make it aware that they are not increasing the amount of FTEs. It's just a definition change, and that's all it is. And we are still awaiting information in regards to Representative Landwehr's comments, question yesterday in regards to the Kansas State Fair about other monies that they may have received from campground and other rentals in regards to the Kansas State Fair. So until tomorrow morning, Representative Sutton, do you have a question?
I do not, thank you, Mr. Chair. I do not have a question, but I do want to issue an apology to the Stabilization Board. They are not the ones that shortchanged the Office of Administrative Hearings. It was KDHE, and I'll take that up on another budget.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Thank you, Representative Sutton. Committee members, anything else? All right. We are adjourned until 9 a.m. tomorrow morning.